Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to have the battle of the short action magnums. We're going to have 3 contestants. One is not in the picture right now, but we will have 3. We will also have some honorable mentions, but which short action magnum is the best? That's what we're going to find out today. If you guys have been around my channel for a bit, you know I'm not afraid to compare off-the-wall cartridge comparisons. What do I mean by that? You know, I'm not afraid to compare a 308 Winchester to a 300 Weatherby. Sometimes I get complaints about you can't compare a short action standard cartridge to a long action Magnum, or one I get a lot of grief for is comparing like a 270 Winchester to a 6.5 PRC. And kind of my rebuttal to that is normal people, you know, when they're trying to decide which cartridge to buy for hunting or long-range shooting, they're not going in thinking, oh, well, you know, I like the 270, but 6.5 PRC is really cool, but, you know, I really can't think of getting either one or comparing them to each other because, well, one's a short-action Magnum and the other one's just a standard-length cartridge. Nah, that's just not how it works in the real world. But in today's video, inspired by Tim from Little Crow Gunworks, we're gonna do this cartridge comparison the right way. It's gonna be semi-spec'd, a Magnum bolt face 5.32 with the magazine restriction of around 2.9 to 2.95, and we're gonna see which one comes out on top. Now, as I said in the beginning, I narrowed it down to 3 cartridges, and right now I want to do some honorable mentions. Cartridges that, well, just don't make the cut. And so what is the cut? Well, I think it comes down to this. Number 1, you can get a factory rifle in it. Number 2, you can get factory ammo. And number 3, you can get high quality brass. So with that being said, the honorable mentions are starting with a cartridge I own that I actually like quite a bit and has so much potential. But unfortunately, it's a very dead cartridge. The 7 WSM. Now, you can get a little bit of factory ammo, and if you're really lucky, you can find a factory rifle here or there. Brass, there's no really high quality brass for 7 WSM. You're basically stuck with Winchester and Hornady. It doesn't make the cut. Very, very good cartridge. The next cartridge that gets an honorable mention that's not gonna make it in the top 3, and this is going to upset quite a few people, is the 270 WSM. Now, the reason I kept out the 270 WSM is really only for one reason. Its newer, flashier sibling 6.8 Western is going to be in the top 3. 270 WSM has decent brass. You can get normal brass. You can still get factory rifles in it, and it obviously has some factory ammo to it. Again, the only reason it's cut is because the 6.8 Western. You really love 270 WSM and you don't really care about shooting high BC bullets, 270 WSM is a really good choice. All right, the last honorable mention is the 7 SAUM. This is a very good long-range cartridge. Long-range shooters absolutely love it. The reason it did not make the cut is because you can't get factory ammo and you cannot get it in a factory rifle. But if you're wanting to do a custom gun with mild recoil and really good performance in long-range shooting, definitely check out the 7 SAUM. Now let's meet the top 3. Now, in no particular order, we're starting with the 6.5 PRC. Now, in the last 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years actually, this cartridge has just overtaken the market. It's, well, a Magnum version of a 6.5 Creedmoor. They are accurate, mild recoil, and just really good performance. It's just a darn good short action Magnum. Now, it does have the same case capacity as a 30-06 or 270, but we'll still count it as a Magnum. Let's talk the pros for this cartridge. Factory rifles, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I go to the local stores and like 90% of the rifles are in 6.5 Creedmoor or 6.5 PRC. Factory ammo, tons and tons of options, great hunting bullets. It's just the winner in factory ammo options. And of course, it has great brass options. You know, you can get it in Lapua, Norma, you name it. Really high quality brass. Contestant number 2, 300 WSM. Now, the 300 WSM has a cult-like following and an extremely high quality rifles. There's not many rifles that can outshoot this 300 WSM. In fact, it does hold the 1,000-yard record. Now, the 300 WSM, it's extremely versatile because it's 30 caliber. You know, common bullet weights for hunting, 150 grain up to 200 grain. Hand load it. You know, the world is your oyster with this cartridge. You can really shoot just about anything as long as you have a fast twist. And it's extremely efficient. In fact, it's going to be the most efficient cartridge out of the 3. And it's just a great all-around performer. The downside to this cartridge, there's really only one when it's comparing to the other 2 cartridges. It's going to have more recoil than the other 2. For a while, it didn't really have good brass, but Lapua in the last year or so is making 300 WSM brass. And the final contestant is the 6.8 Western. Now, the 6.8 Western is kind of that Goldilocks cartridge, at least with the 2 others I've mentioned. It's just right in the middle, and for a lot of people, it's just the perfect balance. Now, 6.8 Western is finally getting good brass now that ADG makes it, and there is a handful amount of factory ammo available. And the rifles, this is probably its weakest point, is it's a bit kind of limited. You know, you can find a Seekins, which is a great rifle, and then you have Browning and Winchester. And unless you go semi-custom with like Fierce or with Christensen, yeah, you can get them in them too. This cartridge is really good. The other thing kind of holding this cartridge back is there's not a lot of bullet options in 270 as of now. It's getting better, a lot better, but when you compare it to the plethora in 6.5 and 30 caliber, it's definitely waning. Now let's look at the potential performance you can get in each of these cartridges. We'll start out with the 6.8 Western. I'm going to keep it SAMI length, as I said. And since these are all Magnums, we're going to put all of them in 26-inch barrels. Now, GRT doesn't have the bullet I want to show, but there's the Berger Elite Hunter that's, well, very close in weight. So we'll just use that for now. We're going to use optimal powders that get you 100% burnt propellant and a decent amount of case fill. For this, we're using N565. At least for the 170 Berger, you're almost topping out at 3,050 feet per second. Now, just remember, just because it can get up to that fast while staying at 65,000 PSI doesn't mean it's going to shoot well there. So, really good performance. Now, the bullet I wanted to use was the 165 ABLR. We're going to be looking at ABLRs with the other cartridges. We bump it up to 3,050. I think it'll safely get 3,050 with the 165 ABLR. Up next, 300 Winchester Short Magnum. Sticking to the SAMI length, magazine length, 26-inch barrel, and we're going to use a 190 grain AccuBond long range. And the powder we're going to be using is Vitavori N550, and we're looking at 29, probably 2980 while keeping it under 65,000 PSI. Really good performance, you know. This cartridge is just so efficient. For, you know, you're almost getting 3,000 feet per second with a 190 grain. Finally, let's look at the 6.5 PRC. Again, 26-inch barrel, 142 grain AccuBond long range. We're going to use Vitavori N560, and we're topping out a little over 3,100 feet per second. Really good case fill, 100% burnt propellant. N560, my friends, is your ticket for 6.5 PRC. So that's really good performance. You're looking at energy a little over 3,000 foot-pounds, and it recoils the least. We'll show the recoil numbers for the other cartridges here in a sec, but that's one huge plus for 6.5. Let's see how they compare to each other. So 6.8 Western with a 165 ABLR, muzzle velocity 3,050 feet per second, 3,400 foot-pounds of energy. Very good for the size of this cartridge. 300 yards, bullet's going basically 2,600 feet per second, 2,475 foot-pounds. At 600 yards, which personally I think is a little too far for most people for hunting, 2,190 feet per second, 1,758 foot-pounds. So what's most important? Your bullet's still going plenty fast enough to expand. And for those that love the energy, numbers still good. This is going to be an MOA in drop at sea level, 10.37 MOA drop. And in a 10 mile per hour wind, 3.00 MOA in wind adjustment. And then as I've done in previous videos, this number is the recoil. That's in a 9-pound rifle with the powder we were using, which was N565. It's not bad, but you're definitely going to feel it. Right, onto the 6.5 PRC. And as you saw on GRT, this has about 19 foot-pounds of recoil and a 9-pound gun. Muzzle velocity of 3,110 feet per second with N560, 3,050 foot-pounds of energy. Bullet's going 2657, so it's a little bit faster than what the 6.8 Western can do. We are shooting a bit lighter of a bullet, but your energy is down at least 200 foot-pounds of energy. Then out to 600, bullet is still about 50 feet per second faster than the 6.8 Western, but down about 150 foot-pounds at 600 yards. And then just the slightest advantage in drop versus 6.8 Western, 9.89, and then 2.89 in wind drift. So it's just a tiny bit flatter when we compare these two specific bullets. On to the 300 WSM with the 190 ABLR. N550, we're going to get around 2980 feet per second. And we definitely have the most power out of all three, 3,747 foot-pounds. At 300 yards, bullet's going 2520. So it's down on velocity, obviously, compared to the other two, but it's really not that far behind. 2679 foot-pounds of energy. So a distinct advantage over 6.5 PRC, but you're going to pay for it in recoil. As I show, oh, I didn't put it down, but it's 27 foot-pounds of recoil. At 600 yards, the bullet's going 2103 feet per second. Still plenty fast enough to expand, but, you know, a bit slower than the 6.5 PRC and 6.8 Western. But you are the reigning champion for energy, at least versus the other two. 1,867 foot-pounds of energy. Almost 300 more foot-pounds than the 6.5 PRC. And then it's, of course, going to have the most drop. It's the heaviest bullet, going the slowest, 11.09 MOA. Still decently close, right? And then the wind drifts, it's really not that far behind. The other two, 3.24 compared to 2.89 and 3. All right, it's time to rank these cartridges. Again, this is my personal opinion, and you could make a very strong argument for each one of these being in first place, second, or third. But coming in at number 3 for me is the 6.5 PRC. This is number 1 in factory ammo options and factory rifle options. It just can't be beat. At least 6.8 Western and 300 WSM can't beat it. You guys know me. I'm a never 6.5 millimeter. No, this is actually a pretty darn good cartridge. Since we are just talking hunting, and I'm a hunting cartridge comparison based channel, yeah, personally, I'm never gonna take an elk or bigger with a 6.5 millimeter. Coming in at number 2, yeah, 300 WSM. It's really good, guys. It's definitely the most versatile, and it competes very well with the 6.5 PRC for having really good factory ammo options. I think what holds this back is the recoil. A lot of people, I don't know, a lot of people are just becoming more wussy. They don't want to deal with recoil. Is the 300 WSM bad? No, but it's not enjoyable either. You know, I've shot a lot of 300 WSM in a hunting rifle without a break, and it's a decent amount of recoil. Really good performance, most efficient. It saddens me to say this, that people are just more recoil sensitive. Yep, my number 1 pick is controversial just because, well, the 6.8 Western exactly hasn't had a crazy good start. It definitely has a fan base, and man, this thing is just so well balanced. You're getting really good performance. It's almost as flat shooting as a 6.5 PRC with more energy, heavier bullet. There's a lot to like in 6.8 Western. And now, since it's getting better support, Really all it needs to take off is a little bit more factory ammo options, the worst out of these three, and it needs more rifle options. But as a hand loader, this cartridge is just really good. Because of the better brass, the performance, it's my number one.